Good morning. So I just am learning all kinds of fabulous things about unity. And I found sometimes you pick up little tidbits, different places. You pick up booklets. And I picked up a booklet a year ago about the 5 principles. And it's very interesting. It's like, does anybody really understand what the 5 principles are? And then when you start digging around, the 5 principles of unity are amazing. They are action-based. So you're not going to show up and just do nothing and expect to get something. It's like a little action plan that you have to work. So the most powerful part of unity is that it's not a religion with dogma and ritual, but it's a practice. Unity is a systematic practice of the presence of God. These 5 basic principles are a framework within which to think. So you just kind of have to boss your thoughts around. Otherwise, if you don't boss your thoughts around, what happens? They boss you around, and then what happens? You're at the mercy of those crazy thoughts. And if you don't boss them around, they get crazier and crazier. They do, and they take over, and then they have you doing things you would never normally do. So these 5 principles are: God is, I am, I think, I pray, and I live it. The first 4 are your universal truths. They're not going to go away and they're not going to get different. That is a truth. The last one, I live it, is a call to action. So again, you have to do it. It's not going to come to you. You have to go and do it and get it. The first 4 principles primarily deal with these spiritual truths that invite us toward a shift in consciousness. So when you're first thinking about the 5 principles, you have to be open and receptive, and you have to understand that you're going to have to change your mind about some things. It's totally different from what you're used to if you come out of a mainstream church with different kinds of rules and different kinds of dogma. The first 4 principles don't really demand an action. They're just simple statements of universal truth. And they're true whether or not we believe them. By contrast, the 5th principle definitely calls us to action. It reminds us that truth can have no creative power or helpful value in our lives unless we choose to make a conscious effort to live in accordance with it. So you can call it principle 1 or you can call it truth 1. So I'm going to call truths 1 through 4. And then when we get on the 5th one, that will be the spiritual discipline. Truth 1, God is. In the heat of the crisis du jour, God is absolute good and he's present everywhere. So he doesn't go away. Where are you? He's there. He's there in your financial challenges, your love life dilemmas, and when the election results don't go your way. We are free from fear of a cruel God that punishes, free from the fear that there is an evil force which can overpower us. We are free of the belief that any person has authority over our own spirit. We trust in a benevolent, loving universe having only good for us. So there's nothing spooky out there. And truth number 2 is I am. Remember, our real essence is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And that comes from Colossians 1, verse 27. This divine spark is inside you, and you are one with the one. So your real essence is not mistakes you've made, your low checkbook balance, which implies a sense of lack, your fears or guilt shoved off on you by others. You ever had anybody make you feel guilty about something? And then you go on and you feel guilty for a long time, and you really gave them the power. Principle 2 releases us from the erroneous beliefs that we are inherently sinful. I mean, we grow up thinking that, and then we think, what did I just do? And now I might go to hell. Principle 2, it's almost ridiculous. Principle 2 fosters our self-esteem and self-confidence. It frees us to express the unique and truth of who we genuinely are, goodness and love. That is who we genuinely are, not some kind of, sin that we just walk around and we're just like this one big sin. Truth number 3, I think. An old Unity song goes, our thoughts are prayers and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Our thoughts and feelings matter, and they matter big time. As the law of mind states, a thought in mind produces after its kind. And you know that, because if you've ever been somewhere and you started thinking negatively, it's almost hard to stop, You have to be very aware of it. Whatever we consistently focus our thoughts and feelings upon manifests in our life. We are not victims, nor are we students majoring in victimology, like Reverend Judy says. We are the creators of our own experience, and we accept responsibility, not blame. When we accept responsibility for the creation of our own experiences, we are empowered to create consciously. So, I think, when you start thinking, have you ever been into a restaurant and maybe it wasn't that good? And then you're like, I'm never, ever going back there again. And so you ride by and you get like, years might go by. Oh, I'm never going there, years. I went there one time, And it's like, so you're holding them hostage for one experience. And you don't ever go there again. You're like, I went there and the food was horrible. And since you can't really just judge that based on one thing. So if you try it again, you might have an outstanding experience, especially if it's years later. Has anybody ever had that? Yes. Okay, so truth number 4. I pray. To maintain conscious contact with Spirit, you must pray and meditate daily. All of the great spiritual masters have shown this to be true. The Unity movement started as a prayer ministry, and affirmative prayer remains at the center of all that we do. And you know that when we come up here every time we ask about prayer requests, that's very important. But affirmative prayer is something really good that you call into existence. And that's how you build your character. Jesus stated it this way: when you pray, believe that you have received and you will receive. Mark 11, verse 24. Through prayer and meditation, we align our heart-mind with God. Denials and affirmations are the tools that we use. So that is denials and affirmation is a term that I recently learned about Unity, and it makes so much sense. Every thought denies or affirms something. With the practice of affirmative prayer, you become part of life's great cycle. With each denial, you breathe out or expel negative programming that no longer serves you. How often do we think about our belief systems and beliefs that we've had for a long time, and do they serve us? Sometimes we build our lives around these old obsolete beliefs that maybe we learned in childhood or we picked up along the way. Well, prayer and meditation frees us from the mental, emotional, and physical cravings and addictions that restrict our freedom. When we commit to practice affirmative prayer consistently, we learn to tame our unruly minds and open them to inner wisdom available in the silence. So, you can't have, I think I'm going to pray, and the radio's going in the background, or the news is on in the other room, or some kind of show is on, and what kind of prayers are going on while all of that's happening? What are you absorbing into your spirit? So I pray. Now, Principle 5, or Truth 5, is the only call to action. I live it. It's not enough to know these truths. We must choose over and over to incorporate all of these truths in our lives. You know how we repeat it, I'm so grateful? Our mind absorbs repetitiveness. So we have to do the thing, and then we have to self-correct, and then we have to do the thing, and we have to self-correct. So it's a pattern to establish a pattern of repetitiveness. And it's not always going to be perfect, but as long as it is, so you can reel yourself in and get back into it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. If not used, these truths are only theory, and they have no power to change our lives or better our world. We must put these truths into action to live the magnificent and prosperous life that we can create for ourselves. We create our own lives. And I heard a minister say one time that poverty is man-made. And it's man-made by the thoughts you think. So it's stinking thinking. Behavior is a language. Let me say that again. Behavior is a language. So how you behave is the language that you speak, not English, but behavior. And we've all heard, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You are the one that has to change. You're not just going to be sitting somewhere and then all of a sudden go, wow, I've changed. Wow. It takes effort, and it takes conscious effort, and it takes repetitiveness, and it takes getting back on track. So if we do not choose to change our actions, we get the same results over and over in our life. What is that called? Insanity. It's exactly right. It's called insanity. However, before we can demonstrate a change in behaviors, we must experience a change of mind. And that takes openness and receptiveness. We must make changes in our consciousness before we create different effects and consequences in life. We have to do it. Nobody's going to rush in there and do it for us. Nobody's going to hold us at gunpoint and say, change your mind. We get there through a series of probably being really sick of what we've created before in our lives. So we all have a personal responsibility to live life based on spiritual principle rather than whim or emotion. The universe is on call for us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to support us in every word we speak. What are your words bringing into your life? Are they bringing in goodness, gratefulness, or are they stinking thinking? And also, Joan said something about the spiritual principles, and I loved what she said one time. We were talking about the different spiritual principles, and she was talking about they, evolve over, the principles stay the same, but it evolves over the course of time. And can you say that, what you said? Can you put that in a better way? Yeah.